and survive and prosper and flourish within the environment that we are that we are living in. And at any point, if you come and you poke a hole within the environment, or you cause some imbalance, it's a ripple effect. Like it's an effect that then it goes in and it causes problems everywhere, which is why when we talk about the environment and we talk about global warming, it's very important, because what we're doing is we are causing an imbalance in a very well balanced system. We're causing a severe imbalance. We're playing around with the temperatures. And it's not the temperatures of a specific day of the year or a specific part of the world. It is a gradual increase of the climate in general. And this increase in the climate will slowly change the reality of wildlife and the reality of life on this beautiful blue and green globe. And we'll lose the biodiversity, and we'll lose a lot of what makes this planet so special to live on. And with this ongoing increase of temperatures within the climate and the loss of biodiversity, resources will become more and more scarce. It'll be more and more difficult to actually maintain this standard of living that we're all enjoying, and it'll turn into a pretty ugly bloodbath. And this is just the reality of what we're doing to this planet. We're burning way too much coal, and we're overproducing things that we don't need, and we're over-consuming things that we don't require. And this is just, it's driving a market and a global financial system that is not within the best interest of the people who are living on it. Some people are getting the short stick of all that, meaning they are not enjoying the overconsumption that others are, and they are still paying the price with the climate changes that they're observing in their habitats. And they're losing the access to their resources, and the water levels are increasing, and we're just really affecting our planet in a way that's negative. And the planet won't suffer. The planet's fine. Earth has been through worse than us, and it's not going to really, it's not sweating us at all. The Earth is going to be fine. We're the ones who are in trouble. Like, we're the ones who aren't going to survive this, and we're not going to be happy, and we're going to be upset of the damage that we caused. So this concept of maintaining the balance is all throughout the Quran, and it really talks about every aspect of life. It's not specific to one aspect of life. It's not just about religion. It's about every choice that you make and every way of functioning and of living that we carry. And I find it to be something that's absolutely worth mentioning as a theme in the Quran, because of the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he wanted to praise this ummah, and he wanted to talk about Ummah Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam in a way of positivity, in Surah Al-Baqarah at the beginning of the Quran, he would say, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. Right? Ummah wasat. And wasat here is not mediocre. No, but it's balanced. That they're about wasat. They have a certain degree, they're in the median. Meaning they're able to balance things out. They know how far to go in every direction and how much time to spend doing everything. This wasatiyah, this moderation, helps maintain the balance. Helps maintain the balance in life in general. And that's what he did really well, alayhi salatu wasalam. That's what we learned from him. And that's what we learned from the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these verses that I'm going to share tonight are going to be focused on this topic, inshallah, to the best of my ability. Where is the? Okay. So the first ayah, or set of ayat, that we're going to talk about, that we'll hear in the first set of 4 rak'at, inshallah, recited tonight. قول الله تعالى والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان. So if you just take these verses, you'll find that he repeats the same word once, twice, 3, 4 times. 3 in the same form and the 4th time in a different form. And the word is mizan. And mizan, one of the meanings of it is a scale, right? And the reason that in Arabic we use that term, mizan, for a scale, is because mizan, in essence, in the Arabic language, is not a scale. Mizan is a balance. But because we use scales to achieve balance, it became the figurative use of the word. So the essence of the word is not actually scale, it's balance. But because I grew up, that's what they used to use. I used to buy kilo bandora, and then you put it on the scale, and the guy will throw little pieces of metal that has numbers written on it, half a kilo, 2 kilos. You keep on throwing it in until it balances out, and then he knows how much to charge you for whatever it is that you bought. Same thing here. You put it, you have to weigh it out. But that mizan allows, once you can balance it out, once one scale has equal to what the other scale has, then you have a balance. So they use the word mizan to refer to this tool, even though the word itself does not mean that. It means balance. So in Surah Al-Rahman, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all Surah Al-Rahman is just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala counting His blessings on us. It's just counting blessings. That's all it is, from the beginning till the end. And every time He counts a blessing, He asks the question, فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ? Which of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's bounties do you not recognize, or do you reject or refuse to recognize? And then the answer is, and this is what you're supposed to do when you're listening to Surah Al-Rahman, is as the Qari says, فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, you answer, وَلَا بِنِعْمَةٍ مِّن نِعَمِكَ رَبِّنَا نُكَذِّبُ. Not in any of your blessings, Ya Rabb, do we refuse to acknowledge, or do we reject? We reject none of them. We accept all of them. So whether you say that in Arabic or English or whatever other language you speak is fine. But the idea here is that you respond to the Quran as the Quran is speaking to you. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, you answer the Quran. So amongst the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala counts within this surah is this blessing that I'm pointing out today. وَوَضَعَ الْمِيزَانِ, and He put the balance. He established subhanahu wa ta'ala the balance. He created the earth and He created the cosmos. وَالْأَرْضَ وَضَعَهَا لِلْأَنَامِ, right? وَالسَّمَاءَ رَفَعَهَا. All of these things are being established. And as He creates all these things subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَضَعَ الْمِيزَانِ, He puts the scales? Not really. He establishes the balance, that everything is going to exist within. He put the laws that govern the universe, and these laws will bring forward a specific balance, and this balance is what we will be a part of. We're a part of that balance. We actually came out to this world because the balance works so well. Had the balance not functioned, then we would not have evolved as a race. We wouldn't exist as a group of creatures to begin with. So we are the product of this beautiful balance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put there. The issue now is, we have the capability, because of this freedom of choice that we possess, and because of the intellectual faculties that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted us, we have the ability to mess up this balance. We can mess it up, and we can maintain it and improve it. So we can go in either direction. We can either mess up this balance and ruin it, or we can maintain it, protect it, and improve it. وَوَضَعَ الْمِيزَانِ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and I established the balance. أَلَّا تَطْغَوْا فِي الْمِيزَانِ. May you never transgress against this balance. May you never ruin it. May you never oppress it or remove it, or tilt the scales in one direction for the favor of one over the other, but rather establish this balance of justice, this peace that exists on this planet, that we are here. We share this earth with everyone on it, everything that lives on it. They all have the right to exist and to live. Now, granted that most species that stop existing or that go extinct, we didn't do it. It's a part of that ongoing evolutionary movement of creatures. But we have for sure caused harm that has made it difficult for other creatures to live and to pursue life. Just the choices of our greed has made that. There's enough food and resources on this planet for all of us to enjoy life here. There's just not enough to fulfill all of our greed. There's enough for your belly to be full, for you to find your needs, but there's not enough for your greed. And that is like the main problem. أَلَّا تَطْغَوْا فِي الْمِيزَانِ. Do not transgress against this balance with your greed and with taking that which is not yours, and with ruining a balance that has allowed for so much beauty to exist and for everyone to coexist. وَأَقِيمُوا الْوَزْنَ بِالْقِسْطِ. And establish this wazn. So he uses here the word wazn, which is obviously the initial root of the word mizan. And establish the balancing process بالقسط, justly and fairly. وَلَا تُخْسِرُوا الْمِيزَانِ. And do not deal within this balance, taking more for yourself and less for others. He talks about this subhanahu wa ta'ala a couple of times in the Quran. When he talks about al-mutaffifin, الَّذِينَ إِذَا اكْتَالُوا عَلَى النَّاسِ يَسْتَوْفُونَ وَإِذَا كَالُوهُمْ أَوْ وَزَنُوهُمْ يُخْسِرُونَ. The same word that he used here. So if they are buying and they're using the scale, they take more than maybe what they should take. And when they're selling, they give less. So there is a scale and there's a balance, but they're just not respecting it. So وَلَا تُخْسِرُوا الْمِيزَانِ, respect the balance. Don't take more than what you need. Don't take more than what you are entitled to take, what you're allowed to take. Don't take more than the portion that you should have. We are observing today in this world people who are consuming way more than they should ever have consumed. Not just food, but in terms of the earth itself. Just abusing the resources way beyond their portions, what is proportionate to their numbers and who they are. Some people are getting very little, and some people are getting way too much. And that is a balance problem. It's a balance problem. That balance problem, when you ruin it, when you do that for a while, nothing good comes from that. Nothing good. The balance will be restored again. The problem with that is that when the balance is restored again, usually a lot of blood is involved. Usually it doesn't happen peacefully. When we tilt the scales, when we rig the game, when we ruin the balance, we take a lot for ourselves and much less for everyone else, and it's not balanced anymore. There's no. See, it's not. Allah doesn't use the word equality. That's not. No, you work harder, you may get more. It's not equality or equity. It's the balance. There has to be some balance. It doesn't make sense that some people starve to death, dying cold, die under oppression and transgression and war, and others indulge in degrees of consumption and usage of resources that is off the scales. No, it doesn't. There's lack of balance. And when you do that for a long time, it will correct itself. It'll correct itself, and it'll correct itself, and it won't be kind about it. The world isn't kind about correcting its imbalances. You don't believe me? Read the history. Read history. When people rig the game for themselves for a long time, long enough, and they ruined that, they tilted the scales and they ruined the balance. Once the balance restored itself, they weren't treated kindly. Things didn't go well for them. And this is a piece that we have to remind ourselves of. We are responsible for maintaining this balance, this divine balance. Right? It's not something that we made, something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instilled in the world around us. And He says it, وَوَضَعَ الْمِيزَانِ, He put that balance. Giving you the command, أَلَّا تَطْغَوْا فِي الْمِيزَانِ, don't transgress against it. وَأَقِيمُوا الْوَزْنَ بِالْقِسْطِ, make sure that you're dealing with everything fairly. You're weighing things out, and justly you're making sure everyone is treated fairly. وَلَا تُخْسِرُوا الْمِيزَانِ, and don't take more for yourself and less for others. Because if you do that, then things go rogue. And we are coming close to that. Unless the human race recognizes how tilted the scales are and how rigged the whole game is for the poor to get poorer and the rich to get richer, and the powerful of the world to continue to be more powerful and the weaker to continue to be weak, and unless we are able to start seeing the difference there and are making a difference there, then when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Armageddon, talks about the apocalypse, really all of the teachings that come from the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam that are generic in nature, that talk about this, are pointing out mazalim, are pointing out severe oppression that leads to severe harj, which is confusion and death, which leads to fawda, a lot of chaos and anarchy. And that's what Ya'juj and Ma'juj is in nature. It's just the concept of anarchy, where it's confusion. We don't know what's going on anymore. Because why? There's so much oppression that there's no reasoning anymore with people. You can't sit down and have a discussion because there's so much anger. People have been hungry for so long. They've had less than everyone else for so long, and they've been watching others enjoy life, and the scales have been tilted for too long. It's corrected in a very vicious way. Unless we أقيموا الوزن بالقسط, unless we take that command and we start establishing the balance fairly, and we start fixing this problem, and we start bringing it closer to the medium, and making sure that people are not left out. And that's the first verses that I want. It's beautiful. Surah Al-Rahman is absolutely, this part of it is just, as He's counting His blessings, He is counting these subhanahu wa ta'ala 4 times in 3 verses. He'll point out the same word. You have to take notice when He does that. Whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the same phrase time and time again in a short number of ayat, you have no choice but to stop there for a second and reflect upon that. Because He does that purposefully. He's trying to draw your attention to something. So when you see ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان. 4 times he's emphasizing something here. There's a balance that you need to maintain in your life, in your religion, in your ethics, in the way you treat other people, in your financial system, in your social system. You can't have people who are above the law and people who are not applicable altogether and have no rights. You can't have that. That imbalance does not do well. We've seen it time and time again historically. The second verse that I'm going to share with you tonight, that's going to be recited in the second 4 rak'at, towards the end of Surat Al-Hadid. And Surat Al-Hadid, it talks about this topic specifically, and this is why I kind of chose this theme, because I couldn't resist talking about this piece about Surat Al-Hadid. Surat Al-Hadid talks about the balance. At the end of a cluster of surahs from Qaf to Al-Hadid, each surah talking about options, different things, different choices. Either you choose haqq or batil, or you choose functionality and purposefulness or aimlessness. You choose guidance or you choose misguidance, knowledge or ignorance. It's just every surah is talking about something. And at the end of this cluster is a surah that doesn't tell you to choose between 1 or 2, but tells you have to balance 1 and 2. It talks about spirituality and talks about physicality. It talks about the batin and the zahir. It talks about the physical apparent effort, and it talks about the spiritual work. And it's not telling you choose A over B or B over A. It tells you that both of them have to come hand in hand. So it's not really a choice between 2 things, it's a balance that needs to be brought amongst 2 things. And that's what the whole surah talks about. Within the depth of what it's explaining, that's what it's explaining to you. And this ayah to me establishes this piece the most with this teaching. Meaning, I could point out the different times in the surah where he talks about it, subhanahu wa ta'ala, and gather them. But it would be 3 or 4 verses all over the place. This one kind of puts them all together. So what he says, subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the following. لَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلَنَا بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ وَأَنزَلْنَا مَعَهُمُ الْكِتَابَ. And then the word again. وَالْمِيزَانَ لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ وَأَنزَلْنَا الْحَدِيدَ فِيهِ بَأْسٌ شَدِيدٌ وَمَنَافِعُ لِلنَّاسِ وَلِيَعْلَمَ اللَّهُ مَنْ يَنْصُرُهُ وَرُسُلَهُ بِالْغَيْبِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ قَوِيٌّ عَزِيزٌ. Indeed, we have sent our messengers and our prophets بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ with clarifications, ethical and spiritual clarifications, a law that allows people to prosper, a way of life that will allow you to live well and to live purposefully. بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ وَأَنزَلْنَا مَعَهُمْ. And with those clarifications, we sent Al-Kitaba wal-Mizan. We sent a book that teaches people who they are and what they are here to do and how to do it. And with that book, we sent with them Al-Mizan. Not a scale, but a balance. Because none of the prophets came carrying a book and a scale in their hands. They came with a book, and then the Mizan was the balance that they brought. They brought forward, or forth, a balanced approach to life, where you're neither indulging into the physical aspect of life, ignoring your spirit, nor are you overly obsessed with your spiritual approach and ignoring the physical part. You are bringing forth a balance. And this balance is what makes Islam special. But really, it's not just Islam that had that. Every teaching of every prophet historically brought the same thing. This is what this ayah is saying, that all the prophets, alayhimus salatu wassalam, taught the same thing. What you have today from the other faiths is a mutated version of what the prophets brought. So it's either heavily focused on the physical, or is heavily focused on the spiritual, and people are walking with a limp. There's a lack. There's no balance. There's no balance. But what we have in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are words and teachings that are very well balanced, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explained to us exactly where when we pray, there's the physical aspect of our prayer, and then there's the spiritual aspect of our prayer. And both are extremely important. If you ruin one of them, then the prayer is not accepted. When you perform Hajj, there's a physical part of it, where you dress in a certain way, and you go to a certain place, and you do certain things, but then there's a spiritual understanding of everything that you are doing that makes it meaningful and grants its purpose. And goes for everything. Nothing that you do is accepted without an intention. An intention is not something that's palpable, and it's not measurable. There's nothing, I have no idea what your intention is. Only you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala know about that. But your deeds are off the bat rejected or accepted just based on what intention you had to begin with. Your salah won't be accepted if you don't have wudu. That's the physical piece. But it won't be accepted either if throughout your salah you never meant to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all. Your goal was to have other people see and point out how And how you say something nice about you, and you never cared to worship Allah to begin with. No, neither of them work. Neither of these things work. So what he's saying here, subhanahu wa ta'ala, we sent our prophets with clarifications, and we descended or revealed with them books, and we revealed the balance. So they had the spiritual, they had the book, they had the bayyinat. And then he asked them, وَأَنزَلْنَا الْحَدِيدَ, and we sent down to them iron, metal. فِيهِ بَأْسٌ شَدِيدٌ, within it there is great strength. وَمَنَافِعُ لِلنَّاسِ, and benefits for people. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that I sent two things with my prophets. I sent with them the teachings that will allow their spirits to elevate, that will allow their hearts to be connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I spent with them the balance. And that balance meant that I would also send with them metal, iron, to make their swords, and to make their shields, and to build their buildings, and to establish their civilization, and to defend themselves. Because it doesn't work any other way. If you establish a way of life that is beautiful, that has clarity in it, and has peace of heart and mind, and has knowledge, and has education, but you're not willing to fight for it, you're not willing to protect it, you're not willing to improve, then you will lose it. Then someone else who invested heavily in the physical, took all of the hadid, and built, will come and trample you all over you. And they won't care that you have a way of life that is beautiful. They won't care that you have teachings that are superior, that have spirituality in them, and compassion and love. As you preach that to them, they are stampeding over you with the hooves of their horses. Yeah? With the chains of their tanks, they will run right over you as you talk to them about love and compassion, because you didn't have anything to protect it with. You can't have something sacred and not protect it. There's no logic in that. There's no balance to that, really. That's what he's trying to explain to us, subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no balance. If you have something of beauty and you're not willing to protect it, you don't have the tools to make sure that it's safe, that's sustainable, that it can be taken, that it can be cared for. How are you going to preach this message if you don't protect it? So that's why he's talking, subhanahu wa ta'ala, about al-bayyinati wal-kitab wa-anzalna al-hadid. Right? And in between the two, wal-mizan. He put the balance to make sure that you will take the book in one hand and you'll take the hadid in the other hand. Because one hand will influence the other. One hand will protect the other. And the moment we drop one of these things, the human race, once they drop the guidance, the book, and they just hold the hadid, they become ruthless and brutal. And they murder children. And they burn them alive in refugee camps. And they kill them. And they kill them for months upon months upon months in live TV as people watch them. And they don't care. And they feel nothing about it. And they defend it. And they get other people to defend it as well. Because there's no book. There's no mizan, there's no book, there's no guidance, there's no bayyinat. There's just hadid. It's just the metal. It's the napalm. That's all that is. And then others who bring the guidance and bring the teachings and bring the love and bring the but there's nothing to protect that. They're not heard. And they have no ability to enforce these teachings or to establish any meaningfulness to them. That's why this ayah is of such importance. وأنزلنا الحديد فيه بأس شديد ومنافع للناس وليعلم الله من ينصره ورسله بالغيب. And that's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to know who truly stands by His teachings and stands by His prophets, where they take the deen with both hands. They take the book in one and they take the hadid in the other. And that balance will allow that will allow things to work. It doesn't work any other way, akhi. It doesn't. We've dropped both technically for a while. We dropped the hadid, we dropped the book, and I think we're trying to pick them both up right now. I think our ummah at this point is trying to find a way to scoop them both up, and it's not easy. They're heavy. It takes a lot of muscle, and it takes a lot of time for you to hold it and to maintain it within your grasp and within your grip. But inshallah, the next generation will be more successful in doing that, inshallah. The final verse that I'll share with you, that will be recited in the last 4 rak'at tonight. قول الله تعالى لا تجد قوما يؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر يوادون من حاد الله ورسوله ولو كانوا آباءهم أو أبناءهم أو إخوانهم أو عشيرتهم أولئك كتب في قلوبهم الإيمان وأيدهم بروح منه ويدخلهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه أولئك حزب الله ألا إن حزب الله هم المفلحون. This ayah carries a context to it that's important for it to be understood. The Sahaba on the day of Badr, and the day of Uhud and other days as well, but on the day of Badr this was where this issue came up. They were going to fight with the Prophet ﷺ, and on the other side and the other army was a parent of theirs. Like a man was standing there with the Prophet ﷺ with the sword. He's like, Ya Rasulullah, my dad is right there. What do I do here? Like, how do I, this is a dilemma. It's a dilemma because my father, you told us birr al-walidain, and at the same time I have to stand by you, so I don't know what to do. So the Quran came and explained the balance here. لا تجد قوما يؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر يوادون من حاد الله ورسوله. You don't find people who accept Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the hereafter. They are going to, yuwadun, mean they're going to behave in a way that has submission to it. So it's not love, it's behaving in a way that shows submission, or shows acceptance, or shows or acknowledges or recognizes a behavior. And this is within the context of the battlefield. So we're not talking about people living in a gated community somewhere, or within a city where people are citizens. I'm talking about the battlefield. You're not going to find people who accept La ilaha illallah and the akhirah, who are going to offer that to people man hadda Allah wa rasulah. So those who continue to want to destroy the legacy of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam, the teachings of Allah, who want to kill the Muslims. You're not going to find someone who does both. وَلَوْ كَانُوا آبَاءَهُمْ. Even if they are their parents, or their children, or their brothers, or their tribes. Because here's how the balance is established. You are commanded to perform birr al-walidain and surat al-rahim, to love your parents, and وَصَاحِبْهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا. This is a part of your teaching. This is how you're going to live your life. But there's a balance to that. This does not mean that you allow them to take away your faith. It does not mean that you will prioritize them above. The balance, a part of the balance, which is the reason I put this ayah here, the part of the balance is also understanding what the priority list is like. A part of maintaining this balance is figuring out what is the priority list. Not everything is equal. Nothing comes equal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's commands. That has to be something that we all accept. The values and the principles that He teaches subhanahu wa ta'ala are unparalleled. There is nothing within life or the world, or within your life, within your world, that should be equal to that. Not anything. Not the love of your parents, not the love of your children, not the love of yourself, not the love of anything. Whatever it is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands has to come first. So a part of the balance is knowing what to put up front and what to pull back. Because if you don't know, if that priority list is distorted, if you don't know what's more important, then you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and the balance is going to be ruined because you were not able to prioritize. Priorities exist in every aspect of our lives. It exists within religion. It exists within our health system. It exists within our legal system. It exists within our governance and our political systems, within education. Knowing what the priorities are, knowing what matters most, what you start with, what is more valuable than other things. When you're stuck in a situation where you have two options, how to choose between these options based on a well-established priority list of what you start with and what you end with. What's less important, what's more important. When we're treating patients, we have to prioritize. What's most important here? You save lives and save limbs. That has to come first. You go to the emergency room, your stomach is hurting, you're going to sit there for 9 hours. Of course you're going to sit there for 9 hours. People are coming in with limbs that are off. People are coming in with heart attacks. People are coming in with bleeding in their brains. This is going to take priority. So you're going to sit there. And it's not because people don't respect you. It's because it's an overburdened system. But still at the same time, there's a priority list of who is going to get in first based on how critical. There's a very clear one. Within the deen, something similar. We have a clear priority list of what matters most. And then what matters after that and after that. So as important as, see, this is a Madani surah. This is in Medina this was revealed. After وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ إِحْسَانًا, all three times in the Quran that was revealed, in Ahqaf and in Luqman and in Ankabut. After he talked about it 3 times, and after he said وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا إِمَّا يَبْلُغَنَّ عِندَكَ الْكِبَرَ أَحَدُهُمَا. After these verses were well established in Mecca, this verse came and just balanced things. Yes, of course your parents, but not on the battlefield. And not when Islam is threatened. And not when your freedom of religion is threatened. No. Not when your deen is being fought. No, that Allah comes first. لا تجد قوما يؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر يوادون من حاد الله ورسوله. Even if it's their parents. And that brought ease for the Sahaba because they didn't know what to do. Like, I don't know what to do right now. Do I stand with you and fight? Do I not? So the Quran came and said, no. This is more important. This is more significant. It's more valuable. Wallahi, we have to understand our priorities. I don't think we do. Every year, I try my best to explain like what I think the communal priorities are. And I talk about advocacy, and I talk about outreach, and I talk about financial centralization, and education, and mentorship. And still, We're still prioritizing structures and spaces, and we're prioritizing other stuff. We're prioritizing other things, and we're not focusing on what really needs to happen, what we really have to invest time and wealth and effort and expertise in achieving for ourselves. And this piece, until we figure this out, until we're able to focus on what really matters and prioritize appropriately, we'll continue to struggle as small communities, minority communities in the West and in the non-Islamic world, and as Muslim countries and Muslim majorities, until we can figure out what matters most, what's most important, what we have to make sure is taken care of first. And then even in Islam, you have to know what you learn first and what you can learn later, what to teach first and what is not worth teaching at all. What doesn't matter, disputed aspects of controversial Islamic law, that doesn't really matter that much, and we shouldn't be wasting too much time talking about. For example, how are you going to establish Eid? That's okay. There's different ways to look at this. Scholars have argued this. People who are more knowledgeable than you and me have spent years arguing this. It's an issue of difference of opinion. You can afford to give this up and let someone else talk about it. You can afford to let someone else figure out what they want to do it and follow. You can afford to do that, but no. It's better that we exhaust hours upon hours upon hours arguing about this and dividing communities and having people. It just comes from me for a lack of understanding our priorities. So we have a few more minutes. I've invited Brother Samir Abu Suwaid, who is well known in our community, Jazakallah khair, one of the leaders in our community, part of the institution, organization of Hikmah, and I've asked him to come and address us a little bit and talk to us about what Hikmah is doing, what Hikmah thinks we should be doing in the near future. So if you don't mind offering him a few moments of your time to listen to him, Jazakumullah khair. Can I get one of the microphones? Better than this one, I think, if we have given something to hold. Barakallah feek, brother. Jazakallah khair.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعليه وصحبه أجمعين. جزاكم الله خير. Inshallah, won't be long, just a couple of minutes. And جزاك الله خير Sheikh Adnan for the invite, inshallah. I just want to start off by saying, subhanAllah, it's such a blessing to see as many people trying to catch Laylatul Qadr, trying to do qiyam in those blessed nights, to catch that blessed specific night, inshallah. And I also want to share that, subhanAllah, after those days are gone and we finish the month of Ramadan, some might worry that the benefit of catching Laylatul Qadr might be gone. But I'll share with you that for some of our brothers and sisters in the countries of Ribat, where they are actually staying